Hi everyone, welcome back to the Property Finance Podcast. And today I want to talk about something that came up in a WhatsApp group recently. So I had the privilege of being added to one of Rob Moore's WhatsApp groups, which was great. Got to see one of his other groups and got thrown in there and sort of said, right, you're taking over the WhatsApp for the day. And it was great because I got quite a lot of questions thrown at me. And one that came up, which I thought, you know what, I'm going to record a podcast about this, was someone asked, what are the opportunities that I see within commercial property at the moment? So some of the opportunities that I'm seeing in commercial at the moment, there's probably three of them that I think I'd probably focus on. So the first one is vacant sort of high street properties. So with that, I see you've got a property on the high street, it's become vacant, WH Smith, someone like that has moved out. So what I would look to do is acquire something like that, and then I'd be looking for ones with storage in the uppers. I'd be looking at something with the potential to convert to residential, maybe doing something where the top floor goes to residential, maybe cut the ground floor in half and convert the rear to residential as well, and then maybe sort of have a smaller shop front. The reason why I would always try and look to keep something commercial on the ground floor is mainly because with it being high street, it's very difficult to sort of convert that fully to residential, and it makes sense. But also, if you get a really good tenant in place, that small area that you leave at the front of the ground floor, if you can get a really, really good tenant in place, you could find that the value of that is actually worth more than the entire ground floor with a crap tenant. So it's worth sort of looking at that as well. So that's what I do with the high street stuff. Then the other opportunity I see with commercial is looking at sort of large office blocks or large just sort of vacant commercial buildings. Now, obviously, there is the opportunity to turn all those to residential. I get that. That's probably everyone's go-to vanilla option. So obviously, you can do that. The other thing I would start to look at is obviously there's more people starting to go back to work. There's more people starting to go back to work from the office as opposed to home. And what I would probably do is I would look at picking up a large office building and sort of creating almost a competitor to someone like WeWork. And there's a couple of guys I know who have done incredible work in that space and have done very, very well. That's probably the route I would go down is some sort of co-working space. And maybe if you could find something near a university, you've got maybe a steady flow of students who use the ground floor and maybe the first floor for studying and everything else, and then maybe have the uppers for local businesses, that kind of thing. And that's kind of the vision that I would have if I could find something like that. So that's sort of the second opportunity that I see in commercial. Then the last one, and this is what I'm actively looking at the moment, is trying to find these opportunities. And that's finding large industrial or warehousing blocks and essentially looking to take them on and then sort of divide them and sublet each area off individually. And the reason being is because I saw this done probably about 4 or 5 years ago, saw this done in Peterborough, and they did it using the lottery fund. And what they did is they took this large warehouse and essentially split it into a couple of floors, and then each floor was split into individual, probably 10, 15 square metre offices. And you had photographers in there, you had podcast studios like this in there, you had guys who were doing Amazon, you had guys who were doing 3D printing. There was all sorts, just a whole mix of stuff. But it was more focused around people who just needed kind of a workspace to actively do stuff. I mean, there was even one which I think he was doing motorcycle repairs. So there was all sorts of different stuff going on in there. And I look at that and I think, actually, that's a model that you could replicate quite easily, because the amount of people now who are going into 3D printed businesses, the amount of people opening podcast studios, the amount of people who are doing video editing, streamers, all of these different things who need just a small pod to kind of work from, I think really opens up that as an option. And I mean, obviously the income's going to be significantly better than just letting that out to one tenant. So I think something like that, I think within warehousing or a large industrial block, I think would work really, really well. And it kind of ties in with the sort of co-working thing. So it's almost 2 and 3 are kind of a hybrid of one another, I guess. But that's where I really do see the big opportunities in commercial at the moment, because everyone's going in and converting every commercial building that they can find. So inevitably the supply of commercial buildings is going to drop. And I think that is going to push people into places like WeWorks, or there's one called CoSpace as well, which is one run by a good friend of mine, Will Stokes, actually, for any of you that know him. So obviously he's done very well in that space. And yeah, like I said, I think because so much commercial is going to be converted, I think people will be forced into doing these sort of smaller pod offices. And And that could be another strategy as well. I mean, there is people who do glamping pods and everything else. I mean, there could be an opportunity to do something like that, but for commercial as well, maybe doing sort of little pop-up offices and things like that. But that's probably another episode for another day. But they're the big opportunities I see within commercial. They're the most financeable options as well, because I think there's so much opportunity within these spaces that lenders are going to jump at the opportunity to sort of be involved in any of these. So, yeah, I think they're probably the three key areas in commercial that I'll be focusing on personally. But yeah, hopefully you found that quite helpful. And obviously I gave that response in the WhatsApp group and it seemed to get a pretty positive response as well. So, yeah, hopefully that was useful. Catch you on the next one.